Okay, let's dive into this fascinating explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive breakthrough in how AI reads medical data, specifically looking at a game-changing method called MedTPE. You know, if you've been following the intersection of healthcare and large language models, you absolutely know that feeding patient data into these systems is incredibly powerful, but it's also painfully slow and computationally expensive. Today, we're going to decode exactly how researchers have completely solved this by teaching AI to actually speak the language of medicine.
We've got a really clear roadmap for our journey today. We'll hit the clinical data problem, the tokenization bottleneck, introduce MedTPE, break down the three-step architecture, look at the groundbreaking clinical results, and finally discuss scaling up and beyond. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. The clinical data problem. Big data, big bottlenecks. Let's start with the setup, right? Electronic health records, or EHRs, are an absolute goldmine of patient data. But they present a massive hurdle. You see, EHRs document a longitudinal timeline of clinical events. We're talking diagnoses, discharge notes, lab results, vitals, medications, the whole shebang. Because these events happen so frequently, transforming a single ICU stay into text can create an absolute avalanche of over 64,000 tokens. That completely maxes out a model's context window. It drastically increases computation costs and slows everything down. Basically, the models are literally choking on the sheer volume of words.
Which brings us to Section 2, the tokenization bottleneck, breaking down the language.
So what's the root cause of all this massive data bloat? It really comes down to how AI reads. Standard AI tokenizers were built for general English, not clinical jargon. When a standard model tries to read a complex medical term like spirometry, it exhausts itself. It breaks the word down into syllables: spi, rom, etri. It takes 3 tokens just to process one single concept. MedTPE, on the other hand, teaches the AI to just read the whole word at once.
The researchers put it perfectly in their paper. They noted that medical terms are fragmented into multiple subword tokens, which unnecessarily extends the sequence length and computation. When every complex medical word gets shattered into 3 or 4 pieces, you're artificially bloating the data. You're wasting precious computational power just trying to reassemble the basic meaning of the text. It's wildly inefficient.
Moving to Section 3. Introducing MedTPE, the fragmentation fix.
And this brings us to the brilliant innovation designed to solve this exact bottleneck. Medical Token-Pair Encoding, or MedTPE, acts as an extra layer. It identifies and merges these fragmented medical subwords back together without losing a single drop of clinical information. It's essentially lossless compression for words. It looks at the sequence, spots that spi, rom, and etri always appear together in a hospital setting, and binds them into a single composite token before the AI even has to do the heavy lifting. By teaching the model the actual language of medicine, MedTPE reduces the total input token length by an impressive 31%. Just imagine that, taking a 64,000 token patient file and instantly shrinking it by nearly a third while keeping 100% of the medical facts. That is a total game changer for processing speed.
Okay, Section 4. The three-step architecture. How it works.
Let's look at the technical architecture here. This illustrates the complete MedTPE pipeline. Think of it as a protective layer. It safely intercepts and optimizes the tokens before they ever reach the core brain of the LLM. It's a really smart translator sitting between the raw medical text and the pre-trained model, packing the information densely so the model can digest it way faster.
The methodology breaks down into these 3 elegant steps. First, Token-Pair Encoding mines a massive medical corpus to find those frequently co-occurring pairs. Second, it uses dependency-aware replacement, and this is so clever. It carefully swaps low-utility general tokens out of the vocabulary and replaces them with these new medical ones. This means the dictionary size never actually changes. Finally, self-supervised fine-tuning aligns the meanings of these new tokens using pseudo-labels generated by the LLM itself. So, no humans are needed to label the data. How cool is that?
To emphasize just how efficient this is, look at the resource cost. It only alters about 3% of the vocabulary. It literally looks for general words it doesn't need. Actually, scratch that. It strategically hunts down the absolute least common original tokens in a hospital context, like cat, and swaps them out for high-value medical ones like spirometry. Plus, it maintains linear computational complexity, and best of all, it only fine-tunes between 0.5% and 1% of the model's parameters. It costs almost nothing to implement, but changes everything.
Section 5. Groundbreaking clinical results. The proof.
Let's look at the hard data. When benchmarking against existing prompt compression methods, the data is completely clear. As we can see, MedTPE is the absolute only compression method out there that manages to hit every single metric. It's lossless, requires zero human labeling, maintains the exact same vocabulary size, and keeps linear computational complexity. Other solutions might lose clinical information, but MedTPE, it compromises on absolutely nothing.
And here is where it gets incredibly exciting. Looking at the real-world Mimic-4 clinical dataset, the results are just staggering. MedTPE successfully cuts inference time in half for major models. For Llama 3, inference time dropped from nearly 39 minutes to just over 19 minutes, a nearly 50% reduction. For Qwen 2.5, it dropped by over 52%. And look at the F1 scores, which measure predictive accuracy. They didn't just stay the same, they actually went up. Faster and more accurate. You just can't beat that.
In its best-performing scenarios, MedTPE drove an astonishing 63% reduction in inference latency. Think about what that actually means. When a doctor needs an AI to summarize a massive patient history to make a split-second decision, cutting processing time by over 60% is an absolute massive win for real-time patient care.
Section 6. Scaling up and beyond. Robustness in action.
A true architectural breakthrough has to work at scale, right? Well, these charts visually prove that whether you throw 1,000 tokens or a massive 8,000 tokens at it, MedTPE consistently maintains high predictive accuracy. Where original models start to struggle and degrade under the weight of long texts, MedTPE keeps the AI perfectly focused.
And it's not just a parlor trick for smaller models either. The research validates that this seamlessly scales up to massive 14 billion and 32 billion parameter models, maintaining F1 scores near a perfect 1.0. Even more fascinating? It's so adaptable it generalizes to non-clinical domains. You can use this exact framework for dense scientific reasoning or financial summarization. It even works on non-English text right out of the box without needing language-specific retraining.
So, this elegant fix leaves us with a really thrilling thought. We've proven that we can seamlessly teach AI the dense, complex language of medicine, making it 60% faster and vastly more efficient, all by tweaking barely 1% of its parameters. So, if we can achieve this in healthcare, what complex industry will we compress and conquer next? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope this really helped to decode the massive potential of MedTPE.